Fascinatingly, Candace Owens seems to be turning against Trump on an unexpected point. Listen to this.
I never thought that I would see a day where I would be rooting for a university above Donald J. Trump and his administration. But I don't recognize his administration right now. I don't recognize what's happening. I have a theory. I do.
If you're unfamiliar, Harvard University, Trump is attacking them right now, trying to force them to reorganize their board of directors, trying to fire certain teachers, change their curriculum, and a whole bunch of other stuff to more closely align with what he wants them to align with, which is insane. It is insane that we have come to this point. That is not democracy. And the fact that Harvard is standing up to him is a good harbinger for our future. Fascism only works when people obey, when people capitulate. There's going to be a lot of pain and suffering and difficulty for, Harvard or Walmart or whatever companies stand up against Trump, if any at all. Could be a lot of pain and suffering, but it will save a lot more down the line. So anyway, one of the things that Trump is using, or basically the thing that Trump is claiming Harvard is doing, is he claims that they're violating people's civil rights by mistreating Jewish students. It's complete fiction. There is absolutely no evidence whatsoever of any of that. And even if there were, reorganizing their board, banning certain people, changing their curriculum isn't going to change that. And until they align with Donald Trump more closely, he canceled their grant funding. Now, if you're unfamiliar with how this worked, I learned about how it worked fairly recently, so I'll tell you what I found. Nonprofits, which I believe Harvard is one of those, commonly have a whole bunch of money in the stock market, and they use the interest that it gains to pay their employees and, whatever else. So they got $1 billion in the bank, for example. I'm sorry, not in the bank, but in the stock market. Say it's gaining 2% interest. I don't even know. Maybe not even that high. Maybe 0.5% interest per year. Yeah, that's basically enough to pay 100 employees like $100,000 a year. And their teachers there, their professors, they make more than that at Harvard. All of the research that they're doing is coming from grants and donations and stuff. They have a lot of money that they cannot touch. So the fact that Trump took away their grant funding means that they literally cannot research, childhood cancer and things like that. Although it's a law school, I'm not sure what things they were researching specifically, but they do contribute a lot with their research. Anyway, listen, so Candace Owens is upset about this, about Trump trying to attack Harvard because they're not aligning with him. And he's claiming it's over anti-Semitism. She's unhappy with that because she's not pro-Palestine. She claims to be pro-Palestine. She is actually anti-Semitic, though. I'm pro-Palestine. I'm opposed to what Israel is doing. I'm disturbed and disgusted by what Israel is doing. I'm behind Palestine 100% of the way. They deserve to have their own territory and to live a life without being mistreated terribly. Candace Owens is not pro-Palestine. She just fucking hates Jews. That's it. She thinks they're running the world, and she wants to get one over on them. So she's basically the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of deal. So when she hears people, when she hears about Trump using the government against people who are anti-Semitic, quote unquote, it kind of disturbs her, I guess. She goes on this whole big rant about how she's upset about it now. By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there.
I don't recognize what's happening. I have a theory. I do. We were kicking around some theories earlier, me and the team, and we were going, how could Trump be such a free speech enthusiast and allowing these things to happen?
What gave you the idea he's a free speech enthusiast? What? Has he ever said those words in his life, free speech enthusiast?
Going after college universities, trying to suppress speech, while pretending that you're not suppressing speech, while pretending that you're fighting DEI. It's so messy. It's so obvious. Everyone knows what you're doing. People who are.
Well, I hope, I would like to think that, but unfortunately, I don't think everyone knows what he's doing. However, when MAGA influencers stand up against the things that Donald Trump does, it works in our favor. It's good. It wakes people up. It snaps them out of it. So what we're watching right now is a good thing. Same with Joe Rogan. MAGA watches Joe Rogan like mad. When he stands up against what Trump is doing, it's a good thing. It wakes people up.
Are still trying to grift, I suppose, are not willing to challenge you on this, which is ridiculous, because when you are out of office, we are going to have to live with these consequences. Our children are going to have to grow up in this America. Okay. So when you threaten our speech, it's not worth it so that we can have pom-poms and go hurrah for a couple of years, then go, okay, well, yeah, now it kind of stinks because, oh, we're getting arrested for wrongthink.
Yeah, exactly. She is accurately pointing out that Donald Trump is, like 97 or something. I don't know how old, 78 or something like that. I don't know. One foot in the grave, one on a banana peel at this point. He's not going to be around forever. Maybe another 12 years at absolute best. And by that point, he's going to be completely out of his head, probably. We were already seeing signs that he's out of his head a little bit. Who comes next? And what do they believe? And do we trust them to have that kind of power over us? The answer is no. Full stop. I don't give a shit if it's Biden or Obama or Pete Buttigieg or anybody. I don't trust them to have the kind of power over me that Trump is wielding. Full stop. This is logic breaking through. I believe that Candace Owens is a lying scam artist, and she knows what she's doing. She's doing it intentionally to deceive people, in my personal opinion. But you know what? At least the message is getting out.
David Friedman, yeah, arrest him. Arrest Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. Get them. I love it. Everyone can see what's happening left and right. Harvard received notice that they had to comply with the Trump administration's demands, okay, and essentially telling them how they would have to change things on campus. And they're, again, the administration is trying to paint this as they're coming and fighting DEI on campus, and they're not doing that. I'm going to show you it so you can see it with your own eyes. On Monday, Harvard became the first university to openly defy the Trump administration as it demanded sweeping changes to limit activism on campus.
Dude, I'm sorry. I love it that she cites AP News in this segment, but any other time she talks about literally anything, she calls AP News fake news and liars, and they're trying to get one over on you. And like, oh my God, dude. So you trust them selectively, then, is what you're saying, please.
Activism is like synonymous with campus, okay? The university frames the government's demands as a threat not only to the Ivy League school, but to the autonomy that the Supreme Court has long granted American universities.
Suddenly she's in favor of, protests on campuses? When did this change?
They said in a quote, "The university will not surrender its independence or relinquish its constitutional rights." That's what the university lawyers said on Monday. They continued, "Neither Harvard nor any other private university can allow itself to be taken over by the federal government." The federal government says it's freezing more than $2.2 billion in grants.
I'm glad that they went after Harvard first, because Harvard has the funds to weather the storm. Smaller universities wouldn't necessarily have those types of funds to weather it.
$60 million in contracts to Harvard unless, essentially, we are going to hold your funding unless you comply with these demands. And I'm going to show you, because Harvard has released it, what they're asking them to do. First, I should tell you they've already complied with adopting the IRHA definition of anti-Semitism, which is ridiculous. But so how you have to read this?
Again, she fucking hates Jews. It's not about Palestine. I guess one could say a broken clock is right twice a day. But she's not even right in this case. She's just a moral monster coming up with a justification for her absolute disgusting beliefs.
Is everywhere, and Skylar, if you don't mind making that a little bigger for me, everywhere that you see the word anti-Semitism, you have to ask yourself what the definition, the new definition of anti-Semitism is, because now we're at critique of Israel, the foreign state, essentially.
That's accurate, yeah. There are a number of U.S. states where boycotting, divesting, and sanctioning BDS is illegal. You can't boycott Israel in certain states. Like, what? Are you kidding me? That is one of the most anti-free speech things that I've heard in a while. Well, not anymore. I can't say that anymore. Damn. It was very anti-free speech as of like a year ago. And it's still bad. It's just there are way more anti-free speech things happening.
So as they frame it down there as the discontinuation of
Dude, this Scott asshole is not blowing it up. She asked him to make it bigger for her. What the fuck is Scott doing there?
As the discontinuation of DEI, which would be a good thing, saying that we want people to be merit-based and to let go of DEI-based policies, that would be a great thing because that is how the nation should run. They are actually asking them to reform programs that have egregious records of anti-Semitism or other biases, telling them to look at specific programs.
This is just fictitious nonsense. There are no programs at Harvard that have anti-Jewish bias. But being anti-Israel is what really counts. Problem is, Israel is like a monstrously evil state right now. They have been for a while. They're doing absolutely terrible, disgusting, evil stuff. If they don't want to be called like moral monsters, then don't be moral monsters. You know, like the scam was revealed for what it was when Elon Musk did his Sieg Heil salute. It was clear as day, a Sieg Heil. It could not possibly be clearer. Everybody knew it. He did it twice for emphasis, right? But the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, a group created to fight anti-Semitism, the ADL defended him. They said, oh, it wasn't a Nazi salute. The ADL, you have seen Nazi salutes, okay? You know this was a Nazi salute. How could you possibly say that? The ADL will defend literal Nazis wrongly if it means furthering the goals of Israel. That is psychotic. That is where we are right now. There's a group of people that believes that any criticism of Israel, the state, is anti-Semitism. That's just incorrect. That is not how it works. And you know what? Every time you say that, you're tacitly admitting that it's an apartheid state. It can either be a Jewish state or an integrated state. If it is a Jewish state, then it's segregated. You live in apartheid.
Scroll down, Skylar, because I want to get to them essentially just framing this as them needing to take a look at who they're even allowing to come to Harvard on foreign visas and whether or not they disagree with Israel's policies.
Yeah, this is not free speech in any way. This violates free speech in every way possible, just about.
Like you have to adopt new policies about student groups or clubs that forbid or endorse certain activities. They're talking about student groups that did not get violent, but are opposed to Israel's agenda, which is totally fair because this country is not Israel. It's not Israel. You are totally allowed to critique Israel. I mean, it's an absolute nonsense. It's
again in the mind of a lot of Israeli nutcases like Netanyahu and others, the ADL and stuff. Criticism of Israel is anti-Semitism. Criticism of Israel it basically makes you a Nazi in the mind of some people. Now, like I said previously, Candace Owens is a Nazi, but not because she criticizes Israel. It's the other way around. She's criticizing Israel because she's a Nazi. I criticize Israel, and I'm not a Nazi. It is possible.
Telling them that these people need to be suspended, that they can't be allowed on campus. Again, making us think that Bibi Netanyahu must be the president of the United States, and Trump has no idea what's going on. Here's a clue. If you want people who are feeling threatened on campus because of the response that people are having to feeling like their rights are being infringed upon, maybe don't infringe upon their rights to speech.
The first logical thing she said maybe in her life.
This is not making it easier for those students on campus, I'm telling you, because this is making it seem like they get special consideration because these rules were not put into place to defend white people when BLM was going on, okay? These rules had never been put in place to defend anybody else. So we're talking about speech censorship. But on its face, it is speech censorship. Speech that you don't like or speech that makes you uncomfortable is not violent. You are not being hurt by speech or being challenged by ideas. Okay. We got to get over snowflake culture. It's just ridiculous. I mean, we know there are people that are more loyal to the state of, you want to know how we know? Because this is even being written down. Because this is even being considered as a definition, a working definition of anti-Semitism. Whoever created this working definition is more loyal to the state of Israel than they are to America. Because in America, we believe in free speech. How about that?
I was just so fascinated to hear her taking these positions so openly. I just I know that she's I know that she's anti-Semitic and she's like a Nazi, but I didn't expect her to criticize Trump because a lot of Nazis managed to support Trump and also continue to be like anti-Semitic nutcases. But, like I said, this is a good sign. This is a good thing. This is Nick Fuentes. I've talked about him a bunch. He is a full-blown self-avowed Hitler-loving Nazi. And I think like a week or something into Trump's term, we started to see what Trump is going to be doing for the next 4 years. And it disturbed even Nick Fuentes at the time. So, I mean, sometimes we get people in MAGA turning against Trump. And right now it's the Nazis. But as long as they're clawing each other's eyes out, I'm happy.
I do want to express some concerns here. Seeing Trump move in such an aggressive way, it is a little bit frightening because it is destabilizing. And when you see the might of American empire directed like this, you realize that this has a lot of gravity to it. There is a weight to it. America is this juggernaut, and it can crush everything in its path. And if we have this extremely energetic executive branch that is making these moves like that, you wonder who gets crushed. And you wonder if the good guys might get crushed. People like us, people like the Groypers, people like opponents of Israel, opponents of the H-1B visas.
I mean, I think that's pretty clear now that opponents of Israel or people that support Palestine are being crushed. Point is, they're clawing each other's eyes out right now, and I'm here for every bit of it. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. For the record, this is the type of thing that makes Trump's poll numbers go down right here. If these people, Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes and all, Mike Lindell and all of the others, if they only have positive things to say about Donald Trump, if Fox News only has positive things to say, if we maintain the status quo and there's absolutely zero pushback on any of these right-wing, media whatevers, Trump's poll numbers do not go down, period. Because people get their news from them wholly, completely, and totally. They don't step outside of their bubble. They have no idea what's going on. So Trump's poll numbers are kind of cratering at this immediate moment. We'll see what happens, go up, go down, I don't know. But I believe that the reason they crater is because Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, and others are criticizing him publicly. And Joe Rogan has been criticizing him very publicly. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments.